Good morning and welcome. Good morning. I'm going to hand the floor over to Laura so that she can introduce and explain the activity that we're going to have today. First of all, I'd like to thank Noelia, Naki and Indil for cooperating with us and for making it possible for today for us to hold this activity, this webinar today, which is really interesting. And I'd also like to say that the sound here in the room is quite particular. So if we speak very loud, maybe you can hear that the sound is much louder than it should be. And I would also like to remind you to switch off your mobile phones, please. Good morning. Welcome to this event, to these talks on sustainable catering. As you know, this is a very important topic for Fundesplai, the topic of sustainable food. As you may know, we have many cooking programs, many cooking courses here. Our organization manages about 300 schools, the catering for 300 schools, and sustainable food is a topic that we cover with different activities, with training activities and other activities. And today's conference is held within a project, in the framework of a project called of Climate Action to the Table. And we've also translated the title in Catalan. This is a project which provides us with some funds, and we're working together with the German Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action through a program which is called EUKI, which is the European Initiative for Climate. What do we do then with this project? We have a set of conferences, and we also carry out different training activities for educators and youngsters and children. And the point here is to raise awareness about the fact that we have to eat differently. This project is carried out together with our Greek and Slovenian colleagues. They are here today with us, and they're going to do a small introduction about their organizations, and they're going to do it in English. While they do their presentations, we will record them on video, and you will be able to access the videos online translated in Catalan. So if you do not understand English, you will be able to see the Catalan version of their presentations later on online once we've uploaded the videos. We're going to start with Alaya, with an organization from Slovenia, and then she's going to hand the floor over to Elizabeth, who is coming from a Greek organization called 50/50, and she's going to talk about her organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sorry for not speaking Catalan. So just a short presentation of our organization. It is called Umanotera, the Slovenian Foundation for Sustainable Development, and it's more than 25 years old. We are a non-profit, non-governmental organization, and we mostly work on different topics of sustainable development. For the last 10 years, we were more focusing on climate change and climate change-related projects, such as climate-friendly food production and consumption, or climate migration, green budget reforms, as we work on very different levels. One level is it's policy level, so we work with ministries, municipalities, because we believe that systemic change is the most important one. And then on the other hand, we work with teachers, with young people, with, I don't know, communities, as we work mostly on in awareness raising and informational projects. So we just try to push the societies towards a more sustainable future.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elizabeth. I am the representative of 50/50. It's the organization from Greece who is partnering in the Climate Change to the Table project. And as an organization, we're established in 2015, so we are quite young. And we work a lot with youth. And we focus on sustainable development and sustainable living. And this is the reason that we decided to take part in this project, because it's very important to incorporate in our lives sustainable food production and food consumption, and change our behaviors and our way of thinking on choosing more sustainable food and altering our diets for our own future, of course. And we are really happy to be here with our partners and also with you, because it's a very good opportunity to interact all together and see what we have to present you and what you think about what we present you. So thank you very much for hosting us here, Fundesplai and Laura, and I wish the best for this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Gaia.
Thank you very much as well. And now I'll give the floor to Bárbara Atie. She's a member of the Sirvo Verde. I serve it green. The floor is yours. Good. Well, yeah, we were discussing the issue with language. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can you hear me? You can? Okay, because I can hear myself. I have the presentation in Spanish, but I'm going to give it in Catalan, or should I do it in Spanish? What do you prefer? Spanish is better? Okay, then we will switch into Spanish, no problem. It doesn't work. Well, there are two parts now of this event. I'm going to do an introduction, and then you will have the marvelous artichokes that Susana is going to cook. Now it works. Good, perfect. Great. Then, yeah, well, my name is Bárbara Atie. I'm a member of the Sirvo Verde. I serve it green. And we are a consulting company, an environmental consulting company specialized in sustainable catering. What does it mean? Well, it means that we basically help businesses that want to switch into being a business with less environmental impact. And we offer all sorts of assessment and consulting. We do some trainings. We help them with the communication to make this process easy. This is us. It's Isabel, who's one of the founders and specialist in sustainable catering. Then we have Diana, who knows a lot about food waste. And then there's myself. I am in charge of sustainable catering, but I'm also in charge of the education programs, especially with education programs related to school canteens, because we think that all the good practices that can be introduced in a school kitchen can be reinforced through an education program, through awareness raising and other activities with the education community. Now I'd like to do an exercise. I'd like to do an activity with you. When we think about the concept of pollution, what does come to your mind? What are the images that come to your mind when we think about pollution? Maybe plastics, which is a critical problem. Maybe you think about an image like this one or this one, which is the pollution of a big factory or a big industry. So what does come to your mind? Sound pollution. Well, this is interesting. Yes, as well, yes, also. And there we go. But whenever we ask this question, we hardly ever see somebody raising the hand and mentioning something related to food, to the act of eating. But I think that we, as professionals of the catering industry, have to be very clear with something, and this is that our food system is highly polluting. The way in which we produce, the way in which we process, the way in which we distribute or transport or consume food, and the way in which we manage waste, because this is also an important topic. All this process has a great environmental impact, and we are part of it if we are working in this sector. This food model which causes deforestation, I think that all the things that I'm mentioning are not new to you, especially to you who are young and who are very well aware of all these problems related to environment. But I think it's worth mentioning it and to see how we are part of this problem. So I was saying deforestation, especially due to intensive cattle ranching, when also to produce food for these animals. We also have to think about the waste that we generate. And here you have the example of plastic. This is actually a real picture that was taken at the Ramblas in Barcelona, and you can see here a mixture of different waste items. And I don't know if you heard this information that says that in 2050 there will be more plastic in the oceans than fish. I would also like to mention the food waste, the idea that 1/3 of all the food produced ends up in the garbage bin. We will go back to this a little bit later on. And we should, of course, also mention the loss of biodiversity. This is quite closely linked to human activities. For example, related to food, or everything which has to do with the change of the use of soil, monocultures. These are all things that lead to the extinction of many plant and animal species. So how are we related to all of this? What is our role in all this problem? What you see now on the screen is a restaurant. Of course, the catering industry is closely related to food because we serve food to our customers, and we are part of this machinery, part of this engine, and we bear also a part of responsibility. We have to bear in mind that Spain is the country that has most bars, restaurants and cafes per person. It's about 175 persons per bar, restaurant or cafe. So if we take this into account, if we consider this, we can see how big our responsibility is. But restaurants are highly polluting, and we're going to see now why. Well, this is a very simple outline, but I think it's quite clear. We restaurants need natural resources. We need light, we need gas, we need energy, we need water, we need food that we will serve to our clients, and this food also needs natural resources to be produced or to be grown. And at the same time, we generate a large amount of waste. And this waste can be organic, can be non-organic, and it can also be chemical waste because we use cleaning chemicals. And also CO2 emissions. Every time that I receive some of the products from my suppliers, this entails a CO2 emissions, and depending on how far these products are coming from, these emissions or this impact will be larger or smaller. We are part of a problem, of course, but at the same time, we're also part of the solution. And I don't want us to finish this event being completely sad because we feel responsible for being part of a problem. quite the opposite. I'd like to encourage us all and empower us all to understand that we are also part of the solution. And this is what I'd like to see today. Because we have a great purchase power, and therefore we have a larger impact. For example, if I go to do my weekly shopping with my tote bag, this is great because individual actions are very important as well. But if a restaurant decides to buy milk in a container which is completely reusable or recyclable, and which does not come in Tetra bricks, which are products that are very difficult to recycle because they're made of all sorts of materials. So if we introduce attitudes like the one I've just mentioned, the impact will be much greater. So then we can say that, yes, we can be great catalysts of this social change to tackle the situation that we're facing nowadays. And we like this picture quite a lot because it somehow shows the power that the catering industry has. Then just a side comment, the cooperative mass catering, we work with many companies of this sector, and sometimes when we think about collaborative mass catering, we think of food canteens or company canteens, but this is in fact a very large sector, and there are lots of different professional profiles. In this outline, you can see all the different profiles that there are. And since we have this large presence in the market, we bear a huge responsibility, but we are also a good opportunity for change. But how do we do the first step? How can we start being a more sustainable restaurant? How can we be a restaurant that respects the environment? Let's start with the beginning. First things first. Let's define sustainability. Sustainability is something that everybody talks about. We all want to be sustainable, to use sustainable products, shampoo, ham, whatever. We see sustainable. We want to be sustainable, but what does it really mean? The first time that this topic was mentioned as sustainable development, it was in 1987 in a report issued for the United Nations called Our Future in Common. And this report defined sustainable development as the capacity to satisfy the needs or meet the needs of the current society without endangering the resources of the future generations. What does it mean? Well, it basically means that we can live, work, produce, and work as a society without endangering the resources that the generations to come will need to work also as a society.
All right, we believe this is fair, this is common sense, but we also would like to take a step forward because we think that this is a perspective and approach that is too much focusing on mankind, on human being. Let's take a step further and let's think that we are not only part of nature, but that we are nature. We are part of this interdependence between all living creatures. So we won't be sustainable only so that the human being is sustainable, but only to have a living planet. And this is very important because the existence of these millions of species that we have in the world and the relations between these species make life on our planet sustainable. Not only life in general, but also our life. So we are going to do that for everyone, for everybody, and not only for human beings. What would be a more sustainable restaurant? It is a restaurant restaurant that has to be aware of the impact of the business. It is a restaurant that wants really to have this philosophy of the environmental impact, and that is constantly setting new goals. What are the different areas for sustainable management? We have several ones. We could speak, for example, of energy efficiency, but also of eco-design, or even food waste, or even we could also talk about a social commitment, which is very important. But since we do not have time today, I would like to focus my talk on 5 items. First of all, sustainable food, or sustainable diet. This is our first topic. And we have to ask ourselves, or at least we should ask ourselves 2 questions when we are, for example, making our shopping list, when we want to prepare and plan our menu. How can we produce the food we are going to buy? Is it food coming from intensive production? Or is it bio food? Is it ecological food? Is it something stemming from biological production where, for example, pesticides are not used? Because we also have to think about animal welfare. Is it a product that comes from craftsmanship? Is it a product that does not produce emissions with less packaging, or is it a very processed product? And if we think, for example, of animal welfare, are we talking about intensive husbandry? I mean, for example, these animals that do not have movement, or on the other hand, are we talking about more extensive cattle? Do we use local resources? Are we talking about intensive cattle breeding? I mean, for example, these very great and big farming structures where we have many animals there, and which means using and consuming a lot of energy, water resources. We have to think that 15% of greenhouse gases comes from intensive husbandry, such as, for example, methane or nitrous oxide. Let's also think about fishing, for example. We need to have sustainable fishing and fisheries. Another information, for example, that is really important is to think that 40% of fisheries are animals or species that shouldn't be there. I mean, these fish was not intended for human consumption, but they finished traps in the fishing nets. And what about these products? Are we going to use them because they are season products? They are really mature. They are really at their best of nutritional properties and also organoleptic properties such as flavor, color, texture. Do we have the products at the right time? It is something that we have to think about as well. And what about the working conditions? This is very important as well, because we want to have fair trade conditions and fair working conditions, respecting human rights. You can see here a series of labels. You might know them because they help us, for example, to make our selections and choices. Second point, second item, the products without an environmental footprint. Quite often in the supermarket we buy food, but we also buy other kind of products, such as, for example, disposable products, cellulose, or, for example, textiles, fabrics, detergents, chemicals. Let's would say that when we think of the catering industry, we are not only focusing on food, but also other types of products. We should try to avoid as much as possible, for example, coffee capsules or these one-use products. Why? Because they have a very short life cycle and we are producing too many wastes. So we should try to reduce the consumption of this kind of products. Another important point around, for example, aluminium foil. Aluminium foil is very widespread. Quite often we find this aluminium foil everywhere, even on the cookers, because they protect, for example, the cookers from cleaning products. But the impact of aluminium foil is enormous, and aluminium is a finite resource. Plastic, yes, the plastic film, of course, it cannot really be recycled. Quite often they end up in dumps. We need a change of mindset. And today I would like you to be aware of all that. And I would like you to think of the alternatives, because quite often we use, for example, aluminium foil to, for example, make croissants in the oven. But we have silicone plates, for example, which could be used. I am talking about reusable products, and also to have a rational use of, for example, paper towels, detergents, chemical products. Most of detergents are chemicals. And when we use detergents, we have to know that on the one hand, we are producing a solid waste because we have the packaging for the detergent, but we also have another waste, which is a chemical waste that goes through the pipings and finally ends up in oceans and polluting oceans. Also, for example, automatic dosing to avoid, for example, spillovers of detergents. And also the use of natural products such as vinegar or lemon, for example, as cleaning products in order to avoid highly polluting products. It is the same, for example, with fabric, with textile. We need natural products to make our clothes. And for example, the caps, disposable caps or disposable aprons, single-use aprons or single-use, for example, caps, we should opt for recycled, for example, materials, recycled fibers, for example, or very low impact products. We are finding every day more producers that are using, for example, ecological cotton. The third point, a healthy menu. Am I okay with time? Am I within the schedules or not? 10 minutes, okay. So these healthy menus, since we are talking here with experts about catering industry and specialists, I also would like to say that we should use not really fat products, fat food. We should increase, for example, the consumption of legumes, vegetables, fruit, and we should reduce, for example, fat acids and also oils, and we should also reduce the consumption of sugar and especially of animal proteins, but animal-based proteins. But it is not only for healthy reasons, it is also because of sustainability and protection of the environment, because this healthy menu is the only feasible menu for the planet. It is the only way we will have in the future to feed human beings. If we stick to this equation, if we go on consuming these high amounts of meat, it is not sustainable. This is why For example, have you visited the exhibition? Do you remember that we have an area with a very big dish plate with the percentages of what we should eat, very small amounts of meat, very big quantities of vegetables? This comes from Eat Lancet, a report that was published in 2019, and everything I'm saying comes from there. The only healthy menu comes through reducing this kind of food, and on the other side, increasing vegetable products. We have to take into account that food has to be, especially fresh foods, if we want to improve not only our health, but also our planet's health. Here is this Harvard dish, Harvard plate, where you can see that half of it is for fruit and vegetables, and the other half, or is, well, 1/4 is for whole grains, and the rest is for healthy food. Zero waste. We have already talked about that. What happens with waste? What's the problem with waste? We really create too much waste. 15 tons per year per restaurant. It is really far too much. And we do not recycle properly. And most of this waste is not recyclable. For example, in Catalonia, only 42% of waste is recycled. And moreover, what we put in the yellow container, less than 10% is recycled. Yes, I know. Well, this is a very good question. Sorry, we couldn't hear the question. But yes, we are doing our best, but of course, we cannot insist only on individual responsibility, because we are not the only ones to act. We can do some things in our business, in our sector, but of course, this has also to do with politics and with policies in general. I'm not going here to talk about eco-embers and all the controversy around eco-embers, but I really believe that we all have a responsibility in that. And yes, we have a great impact on ecosystems because of waste. Do you know where this waste ends up if we do not recycle the waste in the correct containers? In the oceans, in the seas, yes, in dumps, of course, yes. What else? Yes, incineration plants, dumps, open air dumps. Some of them are underground dumps where they simply put all this rubbish underground. And yes, of course, this is it. We cannot see them, but they are there. Yes, absolutely. And as you know, they take really long to degrade, such as, for example, plastics. 450 years for a plastic bottle, and 300 years for a bean, for example, for a can. And yes, we are talking about a special incineration plants for rubbish. Yes, well, I hope so. Of course, I imagine there will be machines there, but I have to say that in general, these incineration plants are special equipment to recycle and to manage and treat rubbish. And there is control. Yes, of course, these are controlled. Yes, let's avoid as well disposable packaging. You should, for example, talk with your providers. For example, what could we use? We could use, for example, reusable boxes. Let's, for example, really take the approach of reusing. For example, I was talking about that with Isabel. Instead of these cardboard plates, we could think, for example, of washable or reusable plates or trays. Let's, for example, review all our disposable items. For example, we have already talked about that. Who is able to use only one tissue or one napkin if we need only one? We quite often lose control of that, and we are simply sorting too many. Let's use, for example, other kind of systems to use only what we need. And for example, for hygiene, it is the same as well. We could use, for example, automatic machines, for example, to use only one of these products for hygienic reasons. We should use also washable products. For example, hand dryers instead of using all these tons of papers. Or, for example, pre-cut paper. All these allows us to control much better what we use. Decoration, for example, straws, all these items are not recycled. I know that they are really nice, that they are beautiful, colorful, but let's remember that all these products are not recycled. They go directly to the dumps. Really, we should look for more creative alternatives. And what we were already talking before, let's use cleaning products that can be reused.
We can use single dose. This is not something compulsory. You don't have to use monodose. This is easily for restaurants because you don't need to be cleaning the ketchup, butter, and what it is all the time. But we really do not need it. And we can also serve tap water. It is healthier. It is healthy. Maybe the taste is not the same, but sometimes I don't know if you have seen some restaurants where they also infuse this water. They infuse this water with some herbs or other things to make the taste more nicer. And then we talked about waste. For example, let's imagine we go shopping and we buy and we take 3 carrier bags, and it is as if we arrived at home and we would dump the contents of one of these carrier bags straight to the dustbin. And this goes beyond an ethical matter. It is a very important ethical matter, and food waste is something which we all should bear in mind, because there's millions of people who suffer from hunger around the world. And there is also an environmental impact. It is a social, economical, and environmental impact what food waste has. The biggest amount of food that is wasted is at home, but also in the catering industry, you see, it's 14%, which is quite a significant amount. What are the main causes? Well, things that we think are waste and they are not waste. And Susana is going to talk about what we dump from some of the food that we use when we cook at home. It's also about the management, also what happens when we serve the food, that we serve large amounts, large portions, and we like to have our plates full of food, and this is something we do not really need. And then events, let's bear in mind the caterings, and it is all about a good planning and good system. And we like to organize the prevention of waste in this upside down triangle. Why is it upside down? Well, because the first thing that we need to do is we have to stop waste from happening. The best waste is the one that is not generated, and we should start there. it is very good to give away all the food that the surplus of food that you have. There are some very useful apps like Too Good To Go. These are very good, but we have to prevent at the very origin of it. And then we could try to sell the food that we've left in alternative channels, and then also, of course, separate waste. And finally, and the very last step is to try to avoid to have waste that cannot be recycled. How can we prevent? With a good diagnosis and good monitoring. We monitor as well the temperature of the dishes, and in the same way we can also monitor the waste that we produce. We can do, for example, 3 times a year an audit to see how much we are wasting. We cannot control what we do not measure. And then another thing we can do is to improve the way in which we cook and the processes that we use when cooking. And we can reuse some food to cook new dishes, and of course a good synchronization of all the team. There is a high standard pressure. I don't know if you're aware of the law against the food waste here in Catalonia, which was the first autonomous community to issue such a law. And in this year is going to be put in force. And once this law is in force, restaurants will have to include the prevention plan, and they will have to inform about this plan to the administration. They will have to say how much food they have wasted and how much food they have given away. And this is the end of my presentation. We should all be aware of all these things. You are very important because you are part of this sector, and the future of the catering industry is going to be sustainable, or it won't be. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ya, hola. Buenas a todos y a todas. Pues nada, yo vengo hoy
invitada. I'm a guest here at this event today, and what I will do is I'm going to cook a recipe for you. I don't know if there's somebody from El Prat here. Do you know me? Well, you're not from El Prat if you don't know me. That's just a joke. Well, Òscar and me and myself, we have a restaurant which is called CèNTRIC, which is at the Plaza Catalunya in El Prat. I don't know. We have here the logo printed on our shirts, and we tend to use seasonal products for the food we serve. I would like today to encourage you to keep working on this, and I'm very happy to see so many faces who are going to be the hands that we will have helping us in the kitchen in the future. It is important to think about the responsibility that we bear inside the catering industry. I have been cooking for many years. I have been cooking with local products from local farmers, and I'd like to show a video to show what we do in our restaurant. I don't know if it's ready. Since my adventure started, my goal has always been very clear. I wanted to work with seasonal products from local farmers. I also am very innovative, but without the local products like the cartofel prat or the asparagus or the chicken from our area are products that are very highly appreciated for its nutrients. They are our best medicine. My dishes are very authentic and are based on the flavors of these products. Behind all of these products, there's lots of people who work for every detail to make the best product for our kitchens. The local farmers woke up very early, every day, to have good quality products from generation to generation. Defending their produce is essential to create a territory which is sustainable and coherent. We have to generate a better human economy because the future is in our hands, in what we eat. The world will be slow or it will not be. thanks to our team and to all the local farmers who make our restaurant possible.
Bueno.
Good.
Pues, vale. Esto es un poco lo que
This
hacemos a nivel
is
interno.
more or less what we do. I work in the kitchen, and Òscar is the one who manages the whole of the restaurant. I'm responsible of what we cook, and he is the one who's launching all these initiatives that are really important and that also part of our DNA, because we do not understand otherwise. We are sorry, but we cannot hear Òscar speaking as he's not wearing a microphone. I'm sorry, but we cannot hear what Òscar is explaining right now because he's not wearing a microphone. And we cannot hear a word. Good now. We talk mostly about responsibility, just because we think this is important. We are now in the 21st century, and you already know how we acted the last 20 years. And unless we start being responsible with the planet, it would all end very bad. So with bearing all this in mind, we have 3 Ps. We have the 3 P plan. We have products, persons, and because products and persons are really important. And in this sector, for many years, people have worked in the wrong way. Some people say that the catering industry is a very slave industry, and this is not true. We have products, as I was saying, local products, seasonal products. We use small farmers. We have a value. We also raise awareness among our clients about the need to use local seasonal products. We have this is what we think. We have 2 different menus a year. We make suggestions according to the seasonal products, and we are part of the circular economy. It is not the same to buy a product from a local farmer and compared to buy it from a farmer who's 10,000 kilometers away. We use different local products. We also organize some food events. Also, we are part of the events that are organized in our village. And I'm not going to go through my whole presentation because we won't have time. And every month we use a star product. Once you open our menu, there is a calendar of the seasonal products, and this is important so the clients can see how we work. We work with local products. We have a vegetarian dishes, and for each dish that we offer in our menu, you can see what's their environmental impact, what's their environmental footprint, their carbon footprint, etc. We defend ecological cooking because ecological is sometimes only a label. We want to be logic. We want to know the producer, and we want to know what kind of products they're using to grow their vegetables. Sometimes they do not use any products because they take advantage of the seasons. And we foster also sustainable products. We buy from small farmers, from small producers, ecological cooking and reusing. And food waste, an important thing. This is something that Bárbara was mentioning. We want to have little waste in our kitchen. We also have some organic compost system that we give back to the farmers that we buy from, and we offer some portions that are adequate. We don't want to have some food left on the plate when the customers leave. We foster that the customers take the food that they could not eat. And then we also use some marmalades and jams made with fruits that could not be sold. we calculate our environmental footprint, and it is not the same to have ecological or organic products that come from around the corner and compared to products that come from the other side of the world. Planet, water, energy efficiency, and also producing energy efficiency. We have an audit to assess the energy or the amount of energy that we're using. We're using machines that are more efficient because, of course, a machine that's 10 years old is not as efficient as a new machine. And a couple of years ago, we changed all the machines and all the items that we have in the kitchen. We also raise awareness about the importance of reducing water use. We use tap water, filtered tap water, which is this concept. It is tap water, which is filtered, microfiltered, and we could reduce, we could stop using 20,000 plastic bottles, which would not fit in this room. Using reuse of water for the toilets, for example, the water that we use go to a system where it is recycled, and this water is reused on the toilet to flush the toilet. And then we also have a system to separate fats. The Remain Jam project, which is about food reuse. For example, we encourage customers to take the food that they could not eat, to take it away home. And we want to also have a better transport system and a more efficient transport system. We have some boxes. We give a white box. Oh no, they give us the white box with the product, and we give them another box to take the product away. And we also analyze the ecological footprint.
And also people, it is very important. We work on equal plans. We also work on prevention of domestic violence, and we try to find a balance in our business model. We really want to earn a living, but to make life worth living it. And we also try to balance the professional and personal life. For example, we are 28 employees, and for those who are, for example, parents who have children, we try them, we give them the opportunity to work, for example, in the mornings. And the young people, on the other hand, for example, we try them to make them work in the afternoons so that they can go out at night and sleep in the mornings. Well, not always, says Òscar's colleague. And also the social side. We all the time try to support the social side. We are, for example, now in two very interesting projects. We have the project 12 Months, 12 Smiles. We are building a school in Tanzania for children, and with Susana we are going to travel there in some months to teach them how to eat better. We also have another project in a rural area. We are helping families of Ukrainian refugees in rural areas, and we try also to enroll them in schools. We have been working with them, cooperating with them in 15 villages, and the experience has been really spectacular. I think we have here someone from Tanzania, Shira School. The school is Shira School in a very small village. If you want, I can give you you can give me your email and I will tell you about. And do you know also the sustainable development goals, the SDGs? Do you know them? In 2015, the world leaders adopted a series of goals to protect the planet and to guarantee prosperity as part of a sustainable agenda. This is a 2030 agenda, and we have a series of sustainable goals that should be respected in order to really have this agenda respected as well and implemented. Now I will give the floor to Susana. I think we are aligned, and I would like to say what Susana was saying. The world has to be slow or it won't be. We really have to change, otherwise we will go to hell.
Bueno. Pues después de todo lo dicho, la verdad, solo me queda hacer una pequeña demostración. Voy a hacer una de las recetas que hemos hecho durante este invierno.
I would like to show you now one of the recipes that we have cooked this winter in our restaurant. Whenever you like, you can come and see me there. I have been working in the restaurant in El Prat for 22 years, and now we are really happy because we've done things very well. We have strong team and we feel really supported. And to feel supported is one of the satisfactions in life. I would like to give you our recipe. In our kitchen, we peel around 4 to 5 tons of artichokes. And we are all winter, for example, with our hands black. Why? Because, as you know, artichokes leave this black color on your hands when you have to peel them. But it is a main resource in winter for our kitchen. I would like to tell you that our menu is really a declaration of intentions, because on our menu you can see what we eat, for example, in winter, in January, such as cauliflower, artichokes, and so on and so forth. These artichokes have just been harvested because climate change is here, and it is something that we are already seeing in productions. On Thursday, we will change our menu and we will start with the new season fruit and vegetable. And we will have our first gazpachos, our first courgettes, and we are starting new recipes. We will, of course, depend on what the farmers bring us. But since we still have artichokes and since tomatoes are not fully mature yet, but I think they are not going to last very long because the weather is quite warm already. And let's start with our recipe. For example, here we have this artichoke. What do? We peel them, but we also want to really reuse everything we use. Here we have the leaves, and what do we do with the artichoke leaves? We make this soup using, for example, these leaves and this kind of soup and broth, for example, for other recipes, such as, for example, rice. With the leaves, we make the broth. With the stem of the artichoke, we make fillers. We cut them, we slice it. We have also used a kind of cheese, a fresh cheese, and also curry. But if we peel it very well, the stem of the artichoke is as tender as the heart of the artichoke. With this, we can fill, for example, strudel, but also cannelloni and other kind of dishes. It is exactly the same as the artichoke heart, but we do not use it usually. This is why I really encourage you to use also the leaves of the artichoke to make this broth and use it, for example, with other food and in other recipes. I am going to cook them now, the hard artichokes, and with the artichoke stems, with the onions, I have added them, and the cheese, I will prepare gyozas, a kind of Japanese gyozas. And as you see, the idea would be to use to the full all the products, all these natural products. It is very easy to do that at home, and it is not complicated. Everyone eats gyozas nowadays. We have here homemade gyozas. You can reuse, for example, all these food that you have, for example, in your fridge. And as for us, this winter, we have sold many artichoke gyozas by using these 4 or 5, almost 5 tons of artichokes that we peel every winter. It is a wonderful vegetable, and I think that it is something that has to be very present in winter kitchen, because we can use them in tempura, fried, steamed, and this also helps us to have culinary tourism. And for example, now we hear a lot about sustainability, about respecting land. As you know, for example, in El Prat, we also have beaches and we have wonderful spaces, and many people come here. And all those who come here do not know that we have these beautiful secrets in the city of El Prat. As you have seen, we have filled the gyoza quite fast, quickly, and maybe some days I could come here and make a recipe for you, cook something for you. You are finishing your studies, aren't you? I want your CVs. There is a draw, apparently. Okay. We are going to seal the gyozas. It is very quick. And you can surprise any boy or girl if you want to invite them for dinner, because it is very easy to cook them. It is even fun, and anyone can cook these gyozas at home. What I do after they have this crushing texture, what we have to do now after giving them this crunchy texture is to hydrate the gyozas. I will use the lid, and with this we can finish the cooking of these artichokes. Here in the gyoza we have the heart, the stem and the leaves of the artichoke, everything concentrated there in these gyozas. And I am really surprised by that when we peel so many kilos. Have a look at all the waste that we generate. But if we want, we can reuse them and make the most of it, because it's a wonderful product. Okay, in 1 minute it will be ready. And that's all, I think. Is there any question? Anyone has a question, comment, remark? Was it okay? Everything good? We are sorry, but we cannot hear the question. Therefore, we cannot translate the question. Well, this part, this white part, yes, of course, this is something that everyone does at home. For example, my granny used to do it. Who told you you cannot eat them raw? I used to eat them raw. My grandfather, my grandmother, who were coming from Andalusia, the south of Spain, and they taught me to eat them raw. Of course, for example, in a salad, if you cut them, if you slice them, you use soy vinegar and oil. They are delicious, and if they are seasonal products, they are really tender and they are wonderful. You can use them raw, of course. They have many properties. For example, we can cook them in 10 different ways. In El Prat, we have many artichokes. We have this farming park where we have, for example, asparagus from Gavà. We also have beans. We also have a kind of onion that is called calçot here in Catalonia. We grow even more calçots, more onions here than in Tarragona, and they are delicious. And artichokes as well, because they are next to the sea, and this gives them different nuances. They are sweeter, even if in general artichokes are bitter. Here, on the contrary, they are quite sweet. We are very sorry, but we cannot hear Òscar. He should use a microphone. Yes, I remember with my grandfather, we used to eat the artichokes raw. Here is my proposal to make the most of the whole artichoke, the leaves, the heart, and also the stem of the artichoke. We can really make the most of all these parts, and you already know where I am. I will wait for your CVs, and I hope that you will be lucky, that you will really make many progress in your professional life. I have been working in the area of cooking for more than 20 years, and I am very happy to be there. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
¿Tenéis alguna pregunta para Bárbara o la Susana? If there are any questions for Bárbara or Susana, we have a few more minutes. You have a question? Can I ask a question? Why did you decide to start working in the sustainable food or sustainable catering industry before it was a trend? Well, we have been working at the CèNTRIC Gastro for 11 years, but it was about 20 years ago when we opened the first restaurant. And I don't know if somebody remembers the first restaurant. We were quite young when we started. Òscar comes from a region called El Bierzo in the northwest of Spain. And there I realized what was our future in the cooking industry, because we wanted to try all new things. If I go there and I want to eat the local products or the local traditional recipes, that's what people might want to do here at home. And we have the artichoke as our local product. In our city, you see a giant artichoke when you drive into the city. And we very quickly realized that this was our way. It was also the best way to understand that the vegetables that we were going to use for our dishes were the ones produced by the farmers of our town. So this is my resource, this is my guarantee, and this is where it all started. There's a question for Bárbara as well. You talked about many different things, many different initiatives, but if you had to pick one single action which is priority for all this sustainable change, yes, maybe it can be a little bit overwhelming. We're sorry we cannot hear Òscar, who's speaking right now, and we cannot translate what he's saying. If you don't have the values, you cannot apply it to the restaurant. So values are a priority. it's important what we do at home, but it's very important also what we do in the restaurant. We are quite radical in this sense. We have a bucket in the shower at home, and when we wait for the water to be warm enough to have a shower, we fill the bucket and we use it to flush the toilet. We never flush the toilet using this flushing system, because we reuse the water that we use for other things. For example, when we wait for the water to be warm enough to have a shower. And the first actions that you can take are the actions that you can take at home, and then you can apply them, of course, for your work. Yes, I find it very interesting. I think the starting point would be the foods themselves. We have to take care of all the details of the product that we use. We have to bear in mind what we want to convey when we serve the food. And there are things that might seem quite radical nowadays. For example, when we think about all the items that we need to make the restaurant work, the thing here is to have another approach, to have the sustainability approach. And this should be present all the time. Then, for example, on the plates or the textiles that we use in the kitchen, and this, once we have this approach, once we are conscious about these things, we are more sensitive about all these topics, and then we will expand it to other parts of our kitchen. Marina was asking, yes, but this is too much, Barbara. These are too many topics, too many things that we have to change. Yes, but it's doable. It's about getting started. When you start doing things good, it is very difficult to go backwards, because what you want to do is to recycle, to avoid using plastics, and this is something that it's part of you, and it's also that it is also something that the team starts to feel as of their own. And these are things and that help you raise awareness. We took all the team to the exhibition, and they had the eyes wide open, and that's what then we told them, this is where we're going. And Òscar and myself have been together for 22 years. The kid here is our nephew, is not our son, but I tell the people who have children, this is the future of your children. This is the planet that we want to have for them. And we have to take care of the planet. It is our responsibility. Absolutely. This is something that we should always bear in mind. When we use film paper or aluminium paper in the kitchen, well, this is something I never use in my kitchen, because it's something which is very handy. When it's too handy, you have to stop and think, okay, if it's too handy, maybe it's not too good, like the pizzas that you can buy, frozen pizza that you can buy. When things are too easy, these are things that have been conceived so that we do not have to think. And this is precisely what we have to do. We have to stop and think and use other products. Do not use these large amounts of products that end up in the dustbin, and we are not aware of that. And it's important to have these kind of events to remember this all the time. And I also think that once you've started, you reach other areas. For example, we have noticed this with school canteens. You were talking about the importance of education for the future generations. And sometimes we are doing things that are very good in the school kitchens, and these should also be put in value. We can transfer all this information to the dining dining room. We can transfer it doing different activities. And in this sense, Fundesplai has been working with projects related to this for a very long time, and they have a project inside for the coming 2 years around sustainable, healthy food. And this is just to say that we are catalyzers and that we can reach many different areas that we could not think of at the beginning. Are there any other questions, David? The most positive aspect of all of this is that the message is spreading. People have been worried for sustainable eating since the end of the 60s of last year, when it's related to the nouvelle cuisine. Some cooks like Poirot and Peugeot were worried about having local suppliers because this created some economical networks. It also helped to strengthen the social web because in areas where it was in danger. And for them, it was important to work with local products. Perfect, because this is something that is part of the history of cooking, but it was only used for in a special, a very elitistic sector. And the fact that this is something that is moving and is spreading also amongst less wealthy communities, it's very interesting. When people are wealthy, they can afford more healthier and sustainable products because they can pay for them. But it is also, and this is something that we should bear in mind, because there is also the effort of thinking about it, but also the effort of being able to buy them, to be able to afford them. Because sometimes these are products that are only affordable for the wealthier parts of our society. These kind of conferences are really interesting because they help us to go beyond the theory to see good practices. Thank you. Well, I have a question. I would like to ask if you think that there is indeed a change in sustainable food. Can you see, are you seeing a change, or are you seeing people are changing? Maybe we could refer to what we were talking about before, when we talked about the picture with the proteins, the processed protein, etc. The food industry is changing. It is changing towards sustainable food, which is something I do not completely agree, but there are efforts to start using less meat, etc. And this is something which is quite difficult. The new food system is something which is a challenge that we have ahead. We have to reduce the amount of meat, we have to use more sustainable food. And what the suggestions from the food industry, for me, my personal opinion, is that it is a disaster. What I personally think is that young people are very well aware of this challenge, of this problem. You know that if we carry on doing business as usual, we're going to spoil and destroy everything, oceans, the territory, and the future is going to be difficult for you. So young people are more aware of this problem. Lots of them, lots of young people do not want to eat meat. There are lots of vegans. I prefer them to be vegetarians because I think that a good cheese from a good producer is a treasure. An industrial cheddar, well, you could stop or you could avoid eating it. But there are small producers who are doing very good products, chocolate, bread, eggs, things that are good for our nourishment. And I think that the young generations have a different approach. I agree, yes, but I think that we have to pay attention to the things that Susana was mentioning. All the marketing campaigns of the food industry, all the campaigns around this sustainability trend. This is quite a spiky topic, but at the end of the day, it is very important that there is more awareness about all these challenges, but we have to be very well aware of the new products, all the products that have the sustainability labels, which are plant-based, and for example, especially these products that are called fake meats, which is meat, which is not meat. We have to be careful because this is processed food. This is chickpeas flour, soya flour, and this is all processed. And it's processed as the sausage, for example. They are fake cheese, fake bacon. This is all food that has gone through a process. And in this sense, it is better to eat cheese which has only salt and milk, rather than eating a fake cheese which has flour and all sorts of ingredients. Because if we want it to look like a cheese and taste like a cheese, we need to use all sorts of different ingredients. For example, you can go to the supermarket and have a look at the ingredients of all these products. If it's more than 4 products, if it has more than 4 ingredients, then it's not healthy. We're not talking about soya milk. Well, this is the plan that they want to sell us. The only thing that I'm saying is that we have to be responsible with what we eat few meat, and to know the traceability of the meat, to know who has raised the animal. We eat up to 5 times meat a day. We eat some ham in the morning, some chorizo with the linses. No, we have to change our mindset. The new food system wants to take us to the healthy plan, and they want to sell us these products which we told are the alternative to meat, but we have to be cautious. We have to have a look at the ingredients. If we see a food product which is an alternative to meat, we have to see what the ingredients are. And maybe it's better to eat the chickpeas instead of artificial burger made of flours with lots of other chemical ingredients. And so that we can say, wow, it tastes like meat. It's a burger and it's not meat, but it tastes like meat. I don't want to create controversy here with this topic. The only thing I'm saying is that we have to have a look at the ingredients, because there's a big marketing campaign and they can look very tasty and very good. And we see that they do not have animal proteins, but then we look at the back of the package and we can see that there's more than 10 ingredients. My trust is in the new generations, because I hope that they are going to be the starting point of the change. We can show the path, but we cannot do anything without the help and the commitment of the new generations. And I hope that the new generations are willing to do this change. We have to close our mouth and open our eyes to be aware of what we eat and what we have on our plates. And the only way possible is to eat real food. Peas, chickpeas, real food. This is the real change. Thank you very much.